Hi, my name is Snael, like the animal, and I am a South African second year animation student. And you're watching this video because you do not know if you want to study animation or not. And I'm here to help facilitate your decision making. This video is basically going to be about, in short, the pros and cons of studying animation. Alright, so the pros and the cons. The first thing I want to start with is the con. And I feel that a lot of people had this issue. I know I did, especially in my first year of, studying this degree. And the first one is breaking the greater illusion or breaking the idea of what studying animation really is. For me at least, I had this big idea of what animation was and what studying it was. And then when I actually got to studying the degree, I was like, this is not at all what I thought it would be. This is interesting. So each university is different, and it's super important to not over-idealize an animation degree. Now, what do I mean by that? It's sort of like, don't go into the degree assuming that you're going to spend all your time creating your own projects and animating 24/7. In my opinion, as I can only talk from how I'm experiencing this degree, very little of the degree is actually sitting down and animating as much as it is learning and experimenting. I feel like a lot of people have this weird break when they realize that an animation degree is more than just animating. There are theoretical classes and fine art classes, and depending on how you feel about it, 3D classes. I know a lot of people are like, I'm doing a 2D degree, and then they get a 3D class and they're like, what is this? That's me with Maya. Okay, Maya, release me. You'll petition your actual animating time with other classes that you might find less important in the greater degree. So it's super important to read through the coursework on certain degrees. In terms of getting into a degree, some courses require portfolios of fine art or other animation work or whatever, and some animation courses actually don't require portfolios. But it's actually important to go in with two other things. Number one, decent enough art skills and a comfortability with digital art, and two, a creative drive. Sounds like common sense, but trust me, you'll actually meet people with little to no art backgrounds in this course. Stuff like taking art as a subject in high school or drawing in your spare time, even playing around with Blender, boom, you're already 10 steps ahead. I felt super prepared for some classes because of my fine art background, because I took art in high school. And if you're a South African and you're in matric or grade 10 or grade 11 or something, and you're like, I want to study animation, take art as a subject. Take art as a subject. There are people in my degree who did not take art as a subject. Take art as a subject. Now let's talk about drive. A drive to create is important. If you're a person with big dreams of creating your own animation series or animating for cartoons or movies or designing characters for games or whatever it may be, you've got ambition, and hopefully that ambition comes with drive. Drive is the number one factor that can determine whether or not you should go into an animation degree. Because the truth is, if you work hard at whatever you do, then you will go far, and that includes animation. But drive and energy and overall creative juices can feel like finite resources. I'm a person with bursts of energy followed by periods of prolonged bleh and nothingness. I felt lazy and unfit to continue my degree, purely working on reserve. And that's something you need to be aware of when you want to go into a time-consuming, creativity-demanding field like animation. Be certain of your choice, because an animation degree can vary from 1 year to 3, and it can be pricey. Ask yourself, is this an ADHD hyperfixation, or actually something you want to be a part of and grow into? Me personally, I was always the art kid, and I knew I wanted to be an animator from a moderately young age. Mainly because I was inspired by Ruby in grade 5. Point is, I was always set on this degree. Well, this or a normal fine art degree. Either way, it was art or barista. Lol. I sometimes need to remind myself that even though it feels like I'm running on reserve, this is still my passion and I'll bounce back. Because truth is, you will have some boring assignments that just feel weighty and tedious, and you'll have assignments that feel exciting and creatively liberating. Such is life. Your coursework will change, you'll grow more comfortable with the software, and gradually fall into the motion of things. Now you might be wondering, Snael, you are talking like I have already chosen animation as my course of study. when I'm watching this video undecided. And to that I say, true. But hear me out. I decided to ask my fellow classmates and animation friends about their honest opinions on their study. One of the biggest questions I asked was whether or not they felt that studying animation was necessary, as there are a plethora of resources online for anybody to access and anybody to learn. The response from my peers was an overall yes, but with the acknowledgement that it was not necessary for everyone to study if they wanted to animate. They mainly commented on things like access to feedback from your hopefully industry professional lecturers, time to advance in animation based on overall hours spent working, access to industry standard software, live feedback, criticism, healthy competition, and advice, and overall exposure to networking, community building, and friend making. To quote directly from my friend, it honestly depends on the individual and their circumstances. I'd say it's necessary, as the community you build and the rate at which you improve is much faster than it would be if you were doing it on your own. And now an opinion from my classmate Artemis. His stuff will be linked in the description below. You should definitely check it out. He is like a super talented guy.
Hi, my name is Arthur. You can find me on YouTube at Artemis Illustrates. It really depends on the person. For myself, it has helped a lot taking animation at uni, having tasks laid out for me, being able to ask for advice from people more skilled than me, having that routine and not having to manage my own progress or motivation. I have taught myself how to create art in the past, and I've discovered that I need that extra push when it comes to motivation and procrastination. I need someone watching over me, otherwise, who am I trying to prove myself to? Yes, there are benefits to moving at your own pace, but I find that can also lead to getting lost in time. Without deadlines or goals, how can I be productive? And without someone or something to keep me in check, I'd just keep extending and procrastinating. It also helps learning how to work with others in a professional setting.
Next, I brought up improvement and whether or not my peers felt that they had improved based on their time spent in their degree. Undeniably, they all said yes. Improving, learning, and growing is bound to happen when you study and spend all your time engrossed in animation-based disciplines. A lot of my peers stated they felt that they have grown more comfortable in themselves and in their creative process, even if they started from the very bottom.
I feel I've definitely improved, not only in how I view and create art, but within myself. I've learned things I wouldn't have otherwise, such as the best environment for me to work in, what my pace actually looks like, knowing my limits regarding workload. I've become more disciplined within my art as well as more carefree, and I find it all enjoyable.
Another big factor that gets spoken about a lot is art block. And if you're watching this video and somehow have no idea what art block is, let me explain. Art block is a period where an artist lacks creative inspiration, finding it more difficult to create. Mental stagnation, if you will. It's horrible and for the most part, completely unavoidable. It is bound to happen to you if you have a time-consuming, creativity-milking degree like animation. But there are always ways to manage it and catch it before you get full-blown debilitating art block. When I asked about art block, the responses varied from person to person. Some stated that art block occurred when drawing something unappealing/boring. Others say that art block came around when self-expectations on projects were not met. Others mention art block as a constant thing. To quote directly from my friend, it is indeed a constant thing. I had pretty bad art block, and in the first year, I think the focus on art and simpler motion ideas did help a bit with that, but as a third year, I've had no time at all to work on my personal things. And even if I got the chance to do so, I don't feel the drive I want to feel all the time. The varying degrees of how much art block has been affecting me this year has been up and down, but I attribute this to me trying my hardest to get my passion back into the field and going out of my way, taking steps to help with the block. I know that opinion sounds super negative compared to the rest of this video, which is like way more upbeat, but that's just a reality. And no matter what degree you do, your third year is going to be difficult. So just be aware of that. You will be swamped with work. I'm a second year, okay? I'm swamped with work. That's just what happens. It's animation school. Some universities don't swamp you with that much work, and some of them do. Okay, read your coursework. I also asked my peers to give me advice for someone that is interested in starting an animation degree. And there was one quote in particular that I really liked, and I'm going to share it with you today. Take the words of Richard Kelsey to heart. Learn to draw, you can always do the animation stuff later. I don't know, I think the quote is super reassuring, and it doesn't have to apply to people already in art university. It can apply to anyone that wants to animate. Like, there's no rush. Chill, learn to draw, the animating will come second. I don't know about you, but when I was interested in animation, I went straight to Miku Miku Dance and Minimator. Like when I first started 2D animating, that was just me drawing frames on MS Paint and then putting it into Windows Movie Maker. And they would be like frames of like my warrior cat OCs wagging their tails. Mind you, I actually never read Warrior Cats. I just had a friend that did, and they drew all the cats, and I really liked cats, so I also drew the cats. But I had the first book. I never read it. I don't know. But it was just like frames of my warrior cat OCs, which I didn't know were warrior cat OCs. They were just like cat OCs, like wagging their tails and like moving an ear and like winking. I'd say blinking, but like I always gave them like emo hair, so it covered the one eye. But anyway, when I had actually enrolled in my animation course, I was kind of like, had like a weird stress about not knowing how to 2D animate. And if someone put like a little hand on my shoulder and was like, Snael, learn to draw. You can always do the animation stuff later. I'd be like, you're so right. And then I would have stressed about not being able to draw well enough instead. Okay, if you hear weird noise in the background, I put my pug dog on the bed, and pug dogs make a lot of noise. Let's hear his opinion on things. Very insightful.
I'd say do work as an artist first. Turn your art into products, feel that demand type pressure, see it as more than just creative outlet but a livelihood. One thing I see artists regret is studying art and losing their spark for it or the fun of it. To that, I say that if that happens to you, you were never meant to pursue art as a career, but to keep it as a hobby instead. I can't relate to those people. Having art as my job or work lights a fire in me and makes it more enjoyable because it has a purpose beyond my enjoyment. So turn your art into work before thinking of applying to see if it really is the best course of action for you. Also, take breaks. Otherwise, burnout will be waiting for you around the corner. If it's not working, start over. If you hate it, change it. But most importantly, give yourself room to rest and don't feel bad about it.
Again, that is Artemis. His stuff will be linked in the description. You guys should definitely check it out. Along with asking for advice, I also asked for some hot takes on like studying animation and like maybe the animation industry. And I got some pretty good ones, but I think the best one I got was from my one friend. And he says, it's by far the most expensive Starbucks employment program ever. I don't know. I thought it was funny because, like, sometimes it's true, you know? Sometimes it's true. Another hot take I got is being good at drawing is not enough for this degree. You gotta be willing to grow and adapt, especially when it comes to learning about other animation mediums. I think that's a good piece of advice because if you are someone that is interested in studying animation and you're just watching this video to make sure you're making the right decision, my one of the pieces of advice for you, I should say, is always learn the software that they're teaching you. I know it sounds self-explanatory, but trust me, you will find people that for some reason refuse to learn softwares and they would rather do it the archaic way. Like, I know people that will not use
drawing substitutions
for lip syncing and they would rather hand draw their lip syncing. Use your tools, learn your software, your workflow, your process, everything will be so much easier. Please adapt. I know it's hard in the beginning, and you're like, I can use a different software, but just try. Please just try. It is so beneficial in the end. Okay, this video is super long. I feel like we should just steer ourselves back on track and bring it all together and rehash some key points. Now, some of these are subjective and they are uni dependent. But here we go. In brief, should you study animation? Pros and cons. First up, we have the pros. Networking, access to the industry, community building, socializing and making connections, foster improvements, enhanced time management skills, healthy competition and constructive criticism, access to free software, hands-on help, and advice. Next, the cons. Workload, which equates to limited time for your own personal projects. It's a competitive industry. There are limited job opportunities just depending on where you are. The university can be expensive, and obviously art block due to expectations and deadlines. I also want to add that although this video was sort of inspired by the troublesome thoughts I had after my first year at this university, I kind of felt stuck and I felt that maybe doing an animation degree was the wrong decision. I love my degree. Like, I still love it here. I've made lifelong friends and I've developed as an artist. But like some, I often sit and think about my choice of pursuing this career. I often battle with the notion that I could have studied literally anything else, maybe something more lucrative, and pursued animation as a pastime. And I feel like it's still a valid point to bring up, like, here and now, and still reigns true. But if I had changed my mind and studied something else, where would I be? Would I have made all these friends? Or even be as happy as I am? Because truth is, although my workload is a pain, I don't feel stressed. I'm in an accepting environment, and I don't think I would have had this much fun in any other degree. I'm a very weird person, piercings like crazy, odd tattoos, and a very strange personality. And I fit in this degree. I'm accepted in this degree. And in all honesty, sort of anticipated in this degree. Like, yeah, she looks like an animation student. I feel like I can be me in this degree, and that's sort of what pushes those thoughts of doubt away. This is what I want, and I'm okay with it. As long as you work hard, there's no reason why you can't succeed. Because do or do not, the time will pass anyway. I hope you feel more confident in making the choice to pursue animation. Maybe you're like, yeah, this is an ADHD thing. Or maybe you're like, holy cow, I really want to do this. Either way, do your best at like whatever you do. And if you're serious about pursuing an animation degree, but you're nervous, I fully understand, especially with things like AI and lazy people wanting a quick and cheap output for a time-consuming project. Why not? The world needs artists like you, human, creative, and genuine. Don't be discouraged, embrace change, and do your best. I really hope that you enjoyed watching this autistic ramble of a video, because I struggle to kind of put my thoughts into words and fully articulate what I'm trying to say. Pursue animation, don't pursue animation. And if you're watching this video because you're already in animation and you're like, did I make a mistake? Worry not. Worry not, my child. Because it could be worse. You could be doing maths right now. Just think about that. And every time I think about that, when I have little doubts, I feel better. I feel happier. I haven't seen a calculator in years. I've uninstalled the calculator app on my phone. That's a blatant lie. But yeah, thanks for watching. This is my first video. I just wanted to speak about something I can speak on because, I think maybe someone needs to hear it. Yeah. I've been Snail. Thank you so much for your time. And if you sneezed during the course of this video, bless you. And if you sneezed twice, bless you again. And if you sneezed 3 times, you're doing it for attention. Bye-bye.